community and. Oh, okay, and what do we have to do?
I'll take care of
Okay,
that.
fine.
I think unless she gets it. I
Oh,
don't think
right.
she can. This is hot for us.
Okay, is that it? Can everybody hear us? Okay, fine. All right. Since we do have an outside member, this is the Outreach and Community Engagement Standing Committee of CAB. And I think, would you call the roll, please, Dariana?
Sure, Crawford, I'll take roll.
Thank you.
Crawford Carpenter,
But again, I'm just subbing. I'm not a member of this committee.
noted.
Okay, good.
Brenda Lee,
Is it
Scott Parsons,
present?
Reverend Julius Van Hook. Not hearing from Reverend Julius Van Hook or seeing him, we have 1, 2, 3 members present. Quorum is established.
Okay, and then now let's set the table for those that are on this particular committee. And for those that are in the audience, I think we just have one person, that would be you, Casey. So what we can do then is just skip all of the other formalities. When you have an opportunity, just kindly raise your hand, use that feature on Zoom. And then once you are recognized, and again, since it's a small setting, if you could hold your comments to maybe a maximum of 3 minutes, because we have other agenda items. Now we can circle back once we get our other agenda items. If you have more to contribute, and we would love to listen to you. So then let's move forward now. Some of the responsibilities, and we'll reference this just for you, Casey, are to identify outreach methods to engage the community regarding initiatives related to public safety realignment, to provide membership cultivation and succession planning, which is one of the items, by the way, Casey, on our agenda here today, and just to nurture CAB's ambassador program, and we may chat about that also today. Now, I guess we better get to work. We've introduced the individuals here that are members of the board. Casey, would you be kind enough to introduce yourself?
Yes, of course. Good morning. My name is Casey Rain. I'm the owner and president of Rain Community Development. Together with my colleagues, Bright Research Group, we have been selected as the consulting team to restore the county's restorative justice initiative. I did make prior introductions last week at the CAB general body meeting to review our work plan and approach. I also shared the similar information with the Our Job Community Engagement Subcommittee. Today, what I had wanted to do was to share a few more details around the community engagement element of the overall project. And hopefully at some point, perhaps we could talk about getting some input for that community engagement element from this team, but I realize that might need to be an agendized action item. So let me just tell you what we are thinking about as we are starting this project, and we'll see what we can do after that. So as you may know, this is a 2-year project. And as I described last week, it's really in 4 phases. And the first phase is really heavy on the what do we need to do? What are we supposed what is the community interested in? This is our listen and learn phase. Once we get a sense of that, then we build our program responses, we train them, and we start implementing them. I'm going to talk about the community engagement for the first 4 to 5 months, and then I'll talk about moving forward after that, because they're somewhat different. So during this first listen and learn phase from community partners, we are hoping to have a very large kickoff meeting in late September. This will be anywhere from 2 to 3 hours, a very structured, facilitated in-person conversation. We're hoping for a very robust turnout, again, of many of the community stakeholders that have been doing the work side by side with the county over the past several years in terms of criminal justice reform at both the juvenile and the adult level, and it's particularly for anybody who's interested in restorative justice. We're also going to be doing key informant interviews with local stakeholders. We're hoping to reach out to both school districts is one, because we want to kind of get the perspective of what's happening with young people from the school and educational perspective, but also community-based organizations, faith-based leaders, the district attorney's office, and ideally someone who works with victims, victim advocates, something like that, or who has been themselves been a victim. Want to make sure that we're getting kind of a well-rounded understanding of sentiment. We're going to be doing 4 focus groups in the community. This will probably happen in October after the kickoff meeting. Focus groups will be, at least one will be in West County, at least one will be in East County. And then part of what we're hoping to use that kickoff meeting for is to kind of drill down a little bit more on the themes that are emerging that kind of come out of that big meeting, and have that kind of guide and inform our focus group themes and conversations. So we're going to start right away by having community participation inform the study design and methodology. We're also going to be doing a community survey where we're going to be reaching out. I understand that the Office of Reentry and Justice has a fairly large constant contact following. So we're going to be doing a community survey on sentiments around restorative justice, around the different kinds of approaches. We're interested in hearing, really, are we looking at expanding, enhancing existing practices? What does it mean when we start talking about principles of restorative justice, and getting kind of a bigger sense of the, how should I put it? Not just the vision, but kind of the flavor of impact that people are most looking to see. And we're hoping to get that from the community community survey. What would they be most interested in seeing implemented in their communities? And then again, throughout the course of the next 4 to 5 months, we're going to be attending a lot of public meetings. You're going to be seeing me on Zoom. You're going to be seeing me in person. Contra Costa County has a rich subset of community meetings, either through the Office of Reentry and Justice, other committees and subcommittees adopted by the Board of Supervisors, where conversation is ongoing. I don't want to take over or hog too many of those agendas. I know that good work is happening at every single one of them, but I sure appreciate being a fly on the wall and listening to all the community conversations about safety, about justice, about restorative practices, about what the community wants, because I don't need to go out and ask people to say what they've already said somewhere else. So I'll be attending a lot of those meetings. And finally, of course, we're going to be reviewing, and we have started reviewing, recent reports and public comments to understand the ongoing dialogue. Now, this is just the next 4 to 5 months, so we learn and understand our community. Supporting all of this is our steering committee, and we do want to form a steering committee. Part of listening right now is learning more about how the county talks to each other and how the county talks to its residents and community members. I want to make sure that we're not having another meeting for meeting's sake, but that we're linking anything into what is existing and already happening. So we're planning on having steering committees probably about every other month to keep track of how we are moving our research along. This would be a short-term thing. It may or may not continue at the end of the 2 years. And then we'll be having bigger community meetings The first one again kicking off in late September, and then we'll have 3 more about once every 6 months to give bigger updates on the project and get more community input as we move to different phases of the project. So that is our planned community engagement at the moment. Again, it's pretty heavy on the next 4 to 5 months because we can see that in our near future, but we have more to learn. And perhaps things could change in the future based on the input that we receive in the first portion.
Well, thank you, Casey.
And that concludes my brief public comments.
Well, that's good. Thank you. Can we now go? Yes.
I missed one thing out of all of that, and I heard the we and our.
One moment, excuse me. I'm so sorry. I'm having audio challenges. Give me 1 minute to fix that.
You can't hear me?
I can hear you now.
Okay, so I'm sorry, but I missed in the very beginning. What organization are you with again?
So I am the owner and president of a consulting agency called Rain Community Development. And it is a very small company that mostly includes myself. And I work with a number of local consultants that I've worked with over the past 20, 25 years. Bright Research Group is one of them. Was very excited to reach out and work with them. I've been doing independent public sector services such as this for counties and public agencies for over 30 years. And the past 15 years, I've spent a lot of time working at the intersection of criminal justice and behavioral health services. A lot of my work was originally around reducing the incarceration of the mentally ill. It actually started around some juvenile justice work, but quickly that transitioned to transitional age youth, pardon the pun there. And then I got into adult systems of care. So I've done sequential intercept model mapping for a number of communities and counties. I've worked with probation departments in 3 counties. I've worked with law enforcement agencies in multiple jurisdictions. I worked with the district attorney's office in San Joaquin County for just about 3 years, where I started and launched a restorative justice initiative within that county that served primarily adults and primarily adults with felony offenders. It was a post-plea free trial. Sorry.
Excuse me, Casey, excuse me, but we have a regular agenda we have to get to.
So-
And, yeah.
I appreciate, I just missed the organization, and
Yeah.
thank you for.
Apologies.
Just as a reminder, they are, we did send out, this is Patrice from ORJ. We did send out a request for qualifications as we're looking to bring on a project manager and a research group that can conduct the needs assessment for our community-based restorative justice effort, but we received Measure X funds for.
Got it.
And so restorative justice had been an item of, for a long time that the CAB have been looking into. I mean, previous CABs actually wrote white papers on this and wanted to see an expansion of restorative justice programming and principles within the county. So we've taken that on and we brought on Casey and her crew. So we're really excited about this unfolding. And we anticipate having CAB's participation, representation on a lot of these design elements as well.
Cool.
Thank you. Is there any public comment on any item under the jurisdiction of the Community Advisory Board that is not on our agenda? Seeing none, let's move to agenda item number 3, approval of the minutes. And this will go back a while for the June 20th meeting for OCEC. May we have a motion for approval and then a second?
I'm Brenda Lee. I move that we approve the minutes.
And I'll second that.
We have a motion, we have a second. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, Would you please call the vote and list the vote by individual, please, Ariana?
Of course, thank you, Crawford. Crawford Carpenter,
Aye.
Brenda Lee,
Aye.
Scott Parsons,
Aye.
Reverend Julius Van Hook.
No
We
questions.
have 3 ayes, motion carried.
Thank you. Ariana, if you could move us now to the next agenda item. That item is item number 4, which we'll discuss / our plan for membership recruitment. If you could kind of leave that up on the screen, have 1 or 2 comments here. First of all, you'll note that we have 11 people listed there. And I think we should clarify our situation with Bonita to see if is she still on the board? Have you had conversations with her, Patrice?
No, so we've made a couple of attempts to connect with her just to get a sense of what
Okay.
the status is. So I believe because she has missed her 3rd CAB meeting, she is pretty much on track to possibly if she misses 1 more, then will not be, we will have to talk with her about her membership status. So my hope is that we can connect with her soon. I know she has a influx in terms of her work schedule. So we're willing to see what we can do in that regard. But yeah, that's where we stand at the moment.
Okay, well, the reason I wanted to mention that, not so much to call her out, but I understand she's got a tremendous job. She's doing some great things, but her schedule now is in conflict with not only her subcommittee responsibilities, but CAB as a whole. That being said, looking at this chart, we're down to 10 members.
Yeah.
And yes, we have 2 people coming on board. We'll keep our fingers crossed. Waiting approval, Rena and Mark. And hopefully that'll bring our complement up to 12. That's the good news. But then we got to take a look at the end of the year, we're going to have people that are being turned out. And we haven't run that survey yet or conducted it. We don't know who is returning. So therefore, we're in a flux. So I'm kind of raising the red flag, not the white flag for surrender, but the red flag to say, okay, we need to get on top of this. So if we start now, there may be an opportunity. I read your email this morning. Thank you. And we need to just stay on top of this. And one other thing, question from a process standpoint. There are 10 members basically. What's our quorum? Is it still based on the 12, or is the quorum based on the 10 voting members? What is
Based on the 12
the
seats.
12 seats? Okay, so therefore, we got to make sure we've got 7 people in each of our meetings.
Yeah.
So, and I was wondering on this sheet for future reference, if we might add quorum, we have quorum listed for standing committees. We might want to add the quorum number up on that sheet, Gariana. So we'll know that our quorum has to be 7 members, just as a point of information. Moving down to these committees here, I think we're in good shape, but we may want to redo our quorum numbers. I believe the quorum numbers on each of our committees should be 2. Is that correct, Patrice and Gariana? If you only have 3 members on each of the committees, then the quorum would be 2.
That's correct.
So we should maybe get that cleaned up or not cleaned up, updated, because we're in a changing world. Okay, any other comments here?
This is in reference to your agenda item for recruitment? Or just a review of membership?
No, this is the review and membership recruitment. We're just on that discussion.
Just
We just
membership.
wanted to cover this particular slide, but if there are any other comments, by all means, let's have them.
The only thing I would mention is that I did find out today that the CCP meeting has been scheduled for actually August 25th, which is next week. So we will likely have, unless anything changes, but I'm pretty certain it will, happen, next week. So we will have, both Mark and Rena approved then. So you will have 2 new members, that will be joining, the board. I also received updates from, county council on your operating guidelines, to include some, there may be some potential language changes in regards to the break in between your term limitations, so to speak. So there may be an opportunity there where there's some adjustments that could be made, so that way you are nearing the end of your term, you can reapply to then serve a consecutive term instead of that 2-year break in between. So that might help to establish more continuity, if there are existing members who would typically term out at their 3rd year, wish to stay on and continue for another term.
Okay, well,
So-
that's good news. We are waiting to look at that.
Yeah,
Ozzy and I were gonna follow up on that committee, on at least looking at that document and then present something to the entire camp board, with your input naturally. So, thank you.
Mhm.
Any other comments? In the area of membership recruitment? Maybe one other, where do we stand with reaching out to faith-based organizations? Has that effort been made?
to my knowledge, I don't believe so. I'm not sure. I know that was
Okay.
something led by, Rev Van Hook, so.
Okay, well, it was my understanding he forwarded that information or,
to-
I'm assuming to ORJ, so obviously then he didn't okay, so I'm just saying for this committee, might, ORJ then Patrice follow up with him, kind of nudging, hey, we're kind of waiting. on
Sure,
that.
but and also as as members, if you want to connect with them, for the recruitment around that, you're also more than welcome to do.
But I thought due to the Brown Act, we can't talk to each other.
No, you can't talk to, if it makes a quorum, you can't talk to each other
For our subcommittee or for
for
CAP?
your subcommittee. So you can talk to them because you don't have like two members communicating would not create a quorum. Well, you guys are large enough. Right? Is it 3 members? Oh, Crawford.
No, I'm not on this committee.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So,
got it.
So-
yeah,
I will
Talk to
connect
him.
with them. We'll
Yeah.
connect.
yeah, okay, yeah.
I'm confused because you're here. That's-
Yeah, you want me to leave?
No, I'm just, yeah.
Scott, hey, British, get me out.
Yeah.
Okay, okay, just so we could get that cleaned up, because again, we're coming down that home stretch for holidays, back to school, and people are gonna take a hike on us, trust me, I've seen it 2 years in a row. I mean, and I don't mean it to be negative, but what happens is there's so many other items and challenges that come up at the end of the year. If we don't get on top of it now, it's just gonna slide through the cracks. Okay, enough said.
Yeah, but that too, I think, and I shared this in my email with you earlier, if every CAB member makes a commitment to bring in 1 applicant
Yeah,
each, then I think you have your pool right there to choose from. And the best way to recruit is really word of mouth. From an
Yes.
existing CAB member who can talk to someone, you can identify people within your own networks that you feel like would be a great addition to the body. And we'll have the commitment to do so. That no better way, otherwise we're kind of shooting in the dark when we do these big broad outreaches. And you're just hoping for the best for them to show up. So that would be my one recommendation that you may want to share with the full gap.
Okay, makes sense. All right, can we go to item number 5 to discuss the ambassador schedules and assignments? I think in this area, we've kind of discussed it, et cetera, at the CAB general meeting. Brenda, Scott, any further comments?
No, I mean, I'm looking at it. I have 4. And Nicole Green is working on getting the CAO meeting scheduled. I've completed the Anderson meeting. The Glover meeting, Supervisor Glover, excuse me, meeting will be in September 6th. And I yet to schedule with our Chief Probation Officer, waiting for my colleague here to give me some dates that work for him, and then I'll be scheduling that. So I feel good about
Okay,
part in this.
Good. Brenda?
Yeah, I have a scheduled meeting with Goya on September 5th. And then I think, is it Justin and I are meeting with LEA on the 18th, 19th? I have 2 meetings in September, and I'm waiting for Nicole to tell me about my 3rd one. So I think Nicole and I are we the court? Yeah, so I'm waiting for that. So I've got 2 scheduled. I'm waiting for my 3rd.
Okay, and then let me share where I am on. I've got 5 meetings and I'm scheduled with the sheriff's office on September the 8th. EHSD, September the 20th, Supervisor Burgess. Wednesday, September the 27th, Supervisor Carlson, Thursday the 28th. A Beckton, October 3rd. So I'm all scheduled out too. This is good. Thank you, everybody. So we're setting the stage. Not only are we talking the talk, we're walking the walk here. So that's good. Okay, any other questions regarding this particular agenda item? The next agenda item there was item number 6. Discuss last update, the ambassador guide for revisions. Could you pass that to me there, please?
I think you should do it from memory.
I'll try that. Can you go to the, scroll down till we get to the actual script? Scroll down, yeah, just keep scrolling. Slow up a little bit. Scroll up now. There we are. That script has been altered. I just finished it over the weekend. And it's geared now towards the new 2023 AB 109, or pardon me, the AB 109 survey. And it's the one that's just conducted. And I've taken the liberty to make some changes. And I've added in housing naturally and bullet points from the current survey regarding housing. Revised bullet points on behavioral health based on the new survey. And then the addition of pre-release, post-release services. There are several bullets there substantiating the need for that particular item. So that's kind of where we stand. And again, this is just a guide. You do not have to use it, but someone that may be uncomfortable going to one of these interviews, it's just a guide. Now, any questions Scott or Brenda or comments?
Well, okay, I read the same survey and I saw the top 4 concerns were housing, substance use treatment, mental health, and employment, which was good because some of that captured really what our priorities last year were as well. So there's some running themes, to use what Casey was saying earlier. Running themes, I like that. So I did notice though, if you scroll up just a hair, that there's 3 things. It says housing, mental health, and homelessness.
This was last year.
Oh, okay.
This is all last year's that's up here.
I guess, so can I assume that when we say in this most recent survey, housing, obviously we're talking about housing for reentry, but homelessness is not a part of this, right? Because I didn't cover homelessness in Contra Costa. I covered the top 4: housing, substance abuse treatment, mental health, and employment with my ambassador meeting. So I just, so this is last year's that's up there?
Yeah, what you see up there is,
Revised one?
that is not the revised.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. I thought we were looking at the revised.
No, we didn't have a chance to get that. Let me share with you the comments from this survey, if I may, on housing. And again, if you'd like some others, if you could send those, I'd be more than pleased to add those. It's going to state here for housing, we need to build upon and or replicate existing flexible funding models to expand housing assistance. That's a bullet. Another bullet, flexible funding models would allow for provider access to an array of housing assistance. And then we have in parentheses here, hotel vouchers, rapid rehousing, resources to cover past payments, etc. All of these things would stabilize justice impacted individual or family. Another bullet, housing concerns include the lack of affordable housing for clients, funding, capacity issues, and challenges related to partner collaboration. In addition, there was a continued reference to the scarcity of affordable housing. Another comment, I believe, this is the last one under housing. There's a dire need for stable housing options that also provide substance use and mental health background services. And then here, finally, evident in the survey's feedback is the particular need for permanent supportive housing tailored for justice populations with disabilities, to include those with significant behavioral health challenges. So we've kind of wrapped all of those comments from this year's survey into the housing component.
Got it.
So those would be the new comments. And again, alter those, change them, do whatever you want.
Got it.
Okay. And the same approach was made to use behavioral health this coming year, which was the kind of the bullet, the major point made. And we have 3 large bullet points on behavior health. And then the real area where we have several bullet points was for pre and post release services, bringing operations together. I think at our tour, we're trying to avoid the duplication of
Right.
certain efforts. That was mentioned, I think at our tour, Brenda, you.
Yeah, it was.
and
It's
Scott,
it's
yeah.
one of the 3 barriers
Yeah,
that were indicated in the survey, which I found very well worded and interesting.
yeah. So that's what's available to our CAB board if they desire to use it in an order of sharing in the presentation with the lead person, followed by comments that can be made by the second, so that they in effect alternate going through it so that there's a rhythm to your presentation or to your discussion. And it's been cut back. It's not as lengthy as this one was last year. Any questions, Scott or Brenda or anybody here?
No, I can just say for the one meeting that I've had, taking advantage of the guide along with the new survey,
Yeah.
was really helped. And I picked for, a couple of things that maybe I have personal interest in. The jail tour I thought was worthy of mention. The holistic intervention partnership I thought was clearly, the barriers were worthy of mention. The thing that I was going to ask, and Patrice, I'm glad you're here for more than just to answer my question. Here, how's that? But when do you plan on distributing the survey results? Because it's kind of difficult when you're briefing a board of supervisor, who in essence is kind of my superior in the line, and I'm telling her about a county document that she hasn't seen yet.
Yeah, we can distribute that now. When are you doing your next?
Well, the next one will be in September, so
Okay.
yeah,
But we can certainly send that out to,
to all the CCP and yeah.
oh, are you saying to, okay, to whom? Are you saying
Well,
members or to?
To the,
The people we're going to be interviewing.
our ambassador meeting colleagues
Louise.
and the CCP, and they should be kind of somewhat aligned, right? In some
Yeah.
cases. It would just be nice for them to have it, because I felt it was a little odd for me to be alluding
Yeah.
to the results of a survey that comes under their purview. They haven't seen it, but I have.
Yeah, ideally, we'd like to be able to present it actually at the next CCP meeting. So I will work to see, since it's now finalized, it'll be scheduled for the 25th. I will work with Anine Mendoza, who's staffing the CCP, to see if we can get that on.
Get that in there?
On the agenda.
Yeah.
And that way we can have a formal presentation and discussion. And that way they at least have access to it via the agenda packet. But then we also can send just a presentation document and brief to all of you guys. So that way, as you're sitting down with the board of supervisors, they have that. Well, it's public, so they can have access, but more likely than not, they're not going to dig through an agenda for it, right? So as you prepare for the meeting, or finalize your time to say you're emailing them schedule or their scheduling a meeting, you can also then send them that document to say, hey, in advance of our meeting, I'd like to go through some of this, or I may be referencing some of the information from this. as
Okay.
well. Yeah.
You mentioned something here about CAB. If I could take a minute. There's a point at the beginning of the new guide here, and I'll send this to you, Patrice, and you can take a look at it. And we've started with here. At this point, we'll touch on some of CAB's recent accomplishments that might be of interest. Number one, recommending that excess AB 109 funds be distributed to areas most in need of one-time funding. Number two here, initiating the recently completed AB 109 survey of county agencies and CEOs. And number three, not only have we conducted our normal survey, but this year our first ever survey will be conducted with returning residents, post-release individuals. And then the next item here of accomplishments, reaching out to sister counties, Alameda, San Francisco, and Solano to spearhead a mini AB 109 summit to engage in the objective of determining best practices. And then finally, of particular note, a few CAB members toured the Martinez Retention Facility to get a firsthand look at the environment that our AB 109 returning residents will be transitioning from. So that is also going to be part of what's available when the individuals are in these meetings. So, and again, we tried to update again based on what was here last year. Excuse me.
Question, if I could. On this subject, that kind of came up, one of the barriers. There were three, and the first one had to do with collaboration, communication, and none of that surprises me. That's a challenge for any organization. But it begged the question for me, with all of the CBOs and all of the organizations involved, is there like a czar in a sense for the county or a point of contact on many of these issues? And I'm gonna guess a lot of it's you,
ORJ.
ORJ.
Yes.
And no wonder you're busy. No wonder you are so busy. Because I kind of figured it was you. And gotta get you some help, because good grief.
We're trying.
Yeah.
Hiring now, so
Okay.
I appreciate your recognition of that, yeah.
Yeah.
It's quite a lot to juggle, though it started with just again, the 8109 set the foundation. But, you know, as you're building a house, you have a foundation, then you build the frame. So
Yeah.
all these different, these other justice initiatives that either ORJ either plays a direct role in, or we provide some sort of place some sort of strategic advisory role to. We're certainly very much so part of that. So it's a lot to juggle, and I think with our great emphasis, and that's why we appreciate CAP's support of ORJ over the years, because as you guys are seeing things from where you sit, and then we hear things from where the other, whether CPO provider or county agencies from where they sit, you know, we try our best to take in all of that information, really beef up our research and data capacity, so that way we're using both qualitative and quantitative information to help drive what decision making should look like, how these funds, for example, should be allocated into what degree. You know, it's quite a lot, it's quite a feat, but we're getting there, and I'm looking forward to expanding more, so we can better serve our entire system.
Good. Any other comments prior to moving to the next agenda? Oh, here, maybe before we move, is there something you would like to see in the revised comments here? Is there anything in particular? Because this can be changed. And updated. It's, again, this is a living document. It can always be changed, updated.
I'll have to look at it a little closer. That was the first I saw of this.
Okay,
And I thought you and I were gonna,
yeah, okay, I'll
So-
send a copy to you. Okay, wait a minute now. If I'm not on this committee, I talk to them independently.
Yes,
Okay.
Yeah.
I will send a copy to each of
okay,
you
okay,
and then let them, then we'll come back to you, Patrice.
yeah.
How's that?
That's fine, that's fine.
Okay.
This is, you're referring to the talking points, right?
Yeah, just the talking points. Yes. Okay. Not gonna hold a meeting. Don't worry. Okay. No other comments? Fine. Can we move to the next agenda item? Which is the CAB retreat. Maybe I should share where we are on the CAB retreat. We've got 3 people working to kind of plan for the 2024 retreat. And you're saying, why are you doing this so early? And again, because of the time of the year and what's required. And the way we put Patrice and her staff under the gun last year to get this done, and it was literally during Christmas time etc. We want to avoid that conflict. So right now, Brenda is just working kind of on the side with me and with Justin. And the method behind the madness was to get some new members who just came on board and to kind of figure out what would they like to see based on what our agenda was last year. Brenda has already provided comments about what she thought we should be doing here. In effect, just replace, and not to replace, but move subject areas one ahead of the other. And she said here, I would replace overview of history of AB 109 before the overview of the CAB structure. And we can make that type of an adjustment. We can discuss that. And again, you'd have to see the entire retreat agenda from day one and day two. And Justin came back with a few suggestions. And he was asking questions, for example, is the retreat going to be virtual or is it going to be in person? And I mentioned to him, we would prefer to do it in person with an option for virtual. And the only response I could give him, because I'm not sure, Patrice, how you think this should be conducted. I said the preferred venue would be in person. Preferred. And
Yeah, I think it'd be great to do it in person again.
Yeah.
As well, but the only limitation we have is that because these will be, hosted, public meetings, that will obviously need a venue that will allow us a virtual option so that if any member of the public can tune in via Zoom, they're allowed to do so. So we can always utilize the space, of course, and structure it in a way where folks can join in.
one of the other comments that Justin made here was that he felt last year's retreat that too much of the presentation was made by maybe 20 people. And he was right. And he said here, he just wanted to ask, could we have more people involved in the presentation topics? And I thought that was a good idea because there was quite a bit for certain people last year. And if we do this right, get the planning done ahead of time, we could maybe involve, hypothetically, but not saying this, Brenda, but Brenda, Scott, Justin, LaTanya, etc. Renee, since we have to, well, not the new Renee, but
Rena? Rena 1 and Rena 2. I have all of those. Yeah.
So I thought that was an interesting point, but this gives us time to do some planning to see if we could pull that off. And then he also had a comment here, which was really most interesting. And that was, he said, do you think it is, pardon me, he's concerned about the days that everybody have to attend the first day, depending on topics. So his point was, well, maybe we have certain topics. You know what? I'm not explaining that well. Let me read to you what he said specifically. Do you think it is vital that everyone attends the first day of the retreat? If the majority of the topic is a review of the same information presented over previous years, you might want to have that date targeted for new members and have current members attend certain sections to add specific input on a topic. And I kind of responded, it's kind of a lengthy response, but saying that'll be a little goofy in my view, because of timing. You don't know how something is going to work unless you're there, and then to slide into something, it would be a little awkward. But I did say, hey, this is going to be up to the new group to decide. The new group can decide whatever they want. But again, we want to get all of the comments on the table. But those are just some of the comments that were made and that we'll be working on moving forward. So we'll be hearing from you, Brenda, as will Justin. Will move forward with these, and we'll be coming back to you, Patrice, and say, okay, here's where we were, and here are the changes. What do you think? And you know, another thought that I had, and I don't know how procedurally this could work. Would it be possible to have our elections in December, for the new board, and then you're all set for that retreat? Would that be possible? Because you'll have your new chair, you'll have your new, board chair, you'll have your standing committee chairs set up, and then you'll know exactly who will have in order to get involved in those presentations. That would,
I think that's a possibility. I think that could work. Typically, it's been done like that. Well, what has happened in the past is usually the first meeting of the year would be the
retreat.
well, no, we moved it up this year too.
Yeah.
So typically in the past, the retreat would happen, I think,
February previously.
January, I think, is where the elections may have happened first in the retreat, so that everyone have an opportunity to kind of get oriented, and then from there, all the subcommittees will form and do scheduling for the year. But yeah, I think it would make sense since we moved the retreat up to January to do elections in December, assuming that you don't have a mass exodus on your hands by the end of the year.
Yeah.
And maybe that would entice folks to stay if they, would like to take on a leadership role. So we can certainly tentatively, at least now, you're still early, we're in August, so it's still tentative enough to get a sense of how things will flow by the end of the year, because we'll need to survey members to see who all is going to stay on for next year. So we have that too
Might we send that survey? Is this a little early? Maybe
I think it's early. I think
wait
it's
till
early.
September.
I think I would even say maybe October, early October, to get a sense of
Okay.
where folks are. It's usually, it's a quick turnaround. Give folks about a week and a half, maybe two, to respond.
All right.
But I think, as we start to get right up against holiday season, I want to know for folks to start thinking ahead about what they're going to be on for this.
Okay. Any other questions or direction, Scott, for the retreat?
I hear what Justin is suggesting. My counter to that would be, I understand piecing it out some so that, a person's not oversaturated with the 2-day seminar. The other thing is, though, it's nice to have all of that experience in the room. So if a subject comes up day one, people can reflect on it and gives it or question it. And so I wouldn't support that in this setting so much. I understand why he feels that way, but I would say that sometimes the most important nugget will come out at the most inopportune time.
And in all fairness, a retreat is tough to do online, especially this type of retreat with all the information that's provided. So I can see how it would feel like, okay, it's harder to engage in discussion, and it's also harder to do more of that back and forth kind of like question, we're having that question and answer. But I think now that it will move into potentially move to in person,
Maybe here, yeah.
you get, there's a different feel. So, I think he would not have those same sentiments if he experienced it.
I think you
Yeah.
would be correct.
Let me read to you my response to him. I said, interesting question. Even though we are reviewing previous information, the main purpose of the retreat is to spend time together and to get a better understanding as to how we might work together as a body in the coming year. That being said, if the new board prefers to target the new members on the first day of the retreat and have current members attend certain sections to add specific input on a topic, then the group should decide so. Personally, I would not recommend that course since things might be choppy as far as timing for the various presenters. So,
I would feel better with the whole group the first
yes,
day.
well,
Not
Yeah.
going to retreats and it,
yeah,
you know,
okay,
people who with more experience with, so the new people can actually feel you, just on Zoom is kind of, but
yeah,
you can actually pick up on body language and say, okay, now I get it. Because remember when I came in, I'm like, I was completely confused. I didn't know, you want me to do what? Because I didn't feel it until we start meeting in person. So I think
Right.
that the first day, I think we should all be there,
yes,
new and old. Okay, and then, the part about people doing different parts, I don't have a problem with that, but
okay.
Yeah.
Well, again, now, you're gonna play a key role on this doggone retreat, so this is good. And
Yeah.
again, we gotta get all the points of views on the table.
Yeah.
And then we
we could
come
yeah,
together
discuss it.
and figure out what you want to do.
I know what it's like to come into this setting without a retreat. And that was difficult.
Yeah,
And so I value even though it was well after the fact that I attended the last retreat, it was very beneficial to hear ORJ people telling me what they do.
Yeah.
Because
yeah,
how would I know that otherwise?
Right.
And I think it's vital for all of us to be together.
Yeah.
okay,
And keep in mind that the intention of the retreat is for a learning experience. So you are going to be bombarded with more information than not. And for some folks, even older folks, I should say, the vets.
yeah, be
Yeah.
careful of that term.
I know, our seasoned folks.
Yeah, there you go.
There we go.
Jesus.
Our seasoned folks, it's also a refresher for them, to say, oh, yeah, I missed the dot on that last time. Now it's actually really cementing
Exactly.
that
Yeah.
time. So, yeah.
Okay,
We'll meet with him and, let's hear him.
okay, you're just gonna tell him then, Miranda.
Of course, I don't have a problem. I'm not gonna do that. We is what we're gonna do. Okay?
We could just simply suggest that now going in person, I think it's.
Yeah.
different.
Yeah,
So let's
yeah.
try it that.
Let's
first.
try it. Yeah.
I love.
I have a motion, and that would be that everyone is here for the 2 days and Justin is here for a third day.
Well, and then also in all fairness, because we'll be meeting in person this
Mhm.
time,
Yeah.
we'll need quorum in person for both days to proceed. So.
There's a good
Oh,
point.
okay.
Yeah,
there's that
yeah, there's a good
balance.
point.
That's
So
a
if
good point.
folks are just picking and choosing when they come in, it may mess up with the quorum numbers.
Yeah.
So that's just one thing.
Well, that, yeah,
Okay.
okay. All right then. Any other comments? Then can we move to the next item, which is item number 8? The policy, let's try that again. Programs and services, Jesus, the programs and services survey. Maybe we could get some comments. Do you have any comments on that? I'll be right back to comment with each other. I'll be right with.
Well, okay, what we're calling is the survey, right? I mean,
Which survey? Is this a new survey?
no, I don't think so. Are
Is
we
this the one
talking
that
about the survey that,
I think. Yeah, I think this was, trying to recall why this was included. I think you all wanted to at least get a sense of, what was the survey, how the survey was put together. Not so much programs and services, not so much the provider survey, but the in custody one, and I think this is
Oh.
also in conjunction with some of your, what you're preparing for with your CAB ambassador, meetings.
Okay, well, so I'm still a little confused because review the survey, but that's not the same survey that we,
Well, there's two surveys on here.
Oh.
These are this first one are the survey questions that were asked of the providers.
right,
And then
Okay.
the second survey is the in custody survey. Now, mind you, what we could do if you don't care too much to discuss the provider surveys, have the presentation already on those survey results, you can certainly take a gander of the in custody survey and discuss or share or the questions that are being asked once we do get the information back. That this can maybe help you understand what sort of information we'll likely get back. How does that inform any community engagement or outreach work that this committee is doing? It's more so in reference to you to help inform anything that you guys want to do.
so the question I have on the in custody survey, has that already occurred?
Yeah, it's being circulated now.
Okay,
We haven't received the collection.
got it. Okay, that it's I'm gonna be interested in what that looks like. You know what I mean? What
Yeah.
the responses are. And so how did that occur, if I may ask?
Yeah, be happy to give you background on that. So it started through Programs and Services Subcommittee. You know, they were already going down the path of making updates to the provider survey. And then it kind of dawned on everyone that, you know, never taken an inventory of the needs actually spoken by those experiences. And I think this was also brought up in context to discussion that CAB overall has had about doing work around, what was it, have a lived experience stories or having people come.
Right,
tell
right.
their stories and things like that.
Got it.
So then this all kind of came together naturally, and the thought came about, well, why don't we just survey folks that are currently in custody in our detention facilities? And so we got to work to connect with the sheriff's office to figure out if that was a possibility, if that could be done. They said yes. And then Programs and Services started to look at, did a comparison between the questions that were being asked of the providers. Can we take some of those same questions, flip them on their head to ask of the
Sure.
folks that are those in custody? And then to see where, if there's some alignment in the responses that are being presented. So if what the providers are seeing and stating, is that also lining up with what folks in custody are
Sure.
stating as well? So,
Yeah.
and if not, well, then let's look into that even further. What are some of the variation here? So if there's certain, you know, providers from their vantage point are saying, these are the variety of needs that we're seeing among the clientele, as well as it affects our agency, right? Like the partnership, collaboration, and things of that nature. Well, someone that might be in custody may have other sorts of needs, and they're saying, we don't see enough of this particular service in the community, or this particular service while I'm in custody could really benefit me, things like that. So it's good to see where are we all kind of seeing the same thing? And then are we also not seeing things that we probably should be aware of? So that's kind of how that came about. And there's no specific timeline or time frame on the custody survey. Initially, we didn't have much of a timeline because we didn't know. We're talking about, well, Programs and Services stated that they wanted the survey to go out to be available to everyone in custody. So you're talking about a 1,300 population, number count wise. So given that, and given some of the limitations in terms of the fact that they have to fill it out with pencil, you know, it's going to be physical documents that we will retrieve and then have to input that information into electronic format where we could do some analysis there. So it's our first go at it, right, with you guys and with the sheriff's office. So we didn't have a specified timeline, but all to say that, you know, we're kind of building it out. Right now, the surveys are being circulated. We were told that at least by the 14th, which was yesterday, we would get some result or the completed surveys back. We haven't received the email yet. We'll follow up a little bit later.
Is it a physical survey, a piece of paper, or are they doing this online?
No, this, yeah, it's a piece of paper, physical
Okay.
survey. So, the sheriff's office agreed to do is that they will scan them over. So we'll have one big file of all of the completed surveys. They'll send that over to us and then we'll get to work to have to print those out and actually manually input the responses on the physical paper into an electronic format. So we don't know yet how many completed surveys were turned in. But we did get some sense of that sometime this week. Yeah.
Anything else? Well, you know, it's interesting, Patrice, when we toured the retention facility, they've got a little computer area where people have access, if I'm correct. Didn't they have that?
Well, they did.
So-
Yeah, that's why I was wondering
Yeah,
if they,
so what I'm thinking in the future, I mean, you gotta walk first, get that,
Yeah.
you know, get the paper one out. If they could do it electronically, that would be a great assistance to tabulating data going forward.
Yeah, it certainly will be more, it will be more accessible and easier for us.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, not more accessible, it'll be easier for us. However, we're not quite sure what the limitations
Yeah.
might be operationally. And
Right,
how
right.
to even get to that computer center.
Yeah,
What they opted to do, and we, you know, we don't run the jails, the sheriff's office, so they're more do in their own operations, and so we kind of take their lead
Yeah.
on how they suggest it should go, and to have it be widely available, from their vantage point was that we would have the physical paper, survey disseminated in all the modules, so basically in all the data
Mhm.
spaces. So, in hopes that we'll get a pretty nice turnout of numbers.
I'm looking forward to seeing the results of that because
Yeah.
it'll be the, you know, where do we connect?
Mm,
right,
And the real key though is that's wonderful where we connect, but then where's the disconnect?
right.
And that disconnect may be valuable to the CBOs for crying out loud to say, oh, we missed that one
Yeah.
or whatever.
Yeah,
So,
yeah. The other part too is that, focus groups will be, conducted in the jails, pretty soon if they haven't already started. This is through the Cal AIM, Justice Initiative that's being led by our county health department. And so we were coordinating with, their consultants who are leading those focus groups and asked that if some of the questions in the in-custody survey that have narrative form, if they could be included in, the focus group, so we could possibly get some more rich information from that too. And they agreed, so, our research and evaluation manager Denise just sent back over some feedback because they shared with us their protocols and just gave them feedback on that. So we're hopeful that we'll get some really great information after those focus groups would be, conducted.
okay, man. I said, one look was worth 1,000 words on our tour over there.
Yeah, so you know, this, like I said, this is part of your packet, so you can take a look at what some of the questions are that are asked of folks. You can get a sense of likely what types of responses we'll hear back.
Mhm.
You know, we're asking folks to even about their mental and physical status while they're in there. What types of services would they like to see, both in a jail setting or in a community setting? You know, demographic information, you know, you know, trying just to get a sense of who are our folks in the jails and what are their needs from their vantage point.
Okay, any other comments? Any comments from anyone else? Who do we have here? No one in the room here on Zoom? Okay, let's move then to next steps. And then once we do next steps, we may have a few more minutes here. We can circle back to you, Casey. So that's why I was trying to get through this, and then we can circle back to you. Next steps, let's start, next meeting, what do we want to do? Scott and Brenda, or what do you want to do?
Well, I mean, the next CAB meeting, or excuse me, OCEC meeting is going to be post a lot of the different ambassador meetings. So I think having updates.
Okay, so let's put that.
I
ambassador.
really enjoy kind of hearing about everyone's ambassador meetings because it gives you a good fresh perspective on what our leaders are thinking, right? And what they want to know. So that's definitely important to me.
And Brenda, do you have anything?
Yeah.
About the retreat, don't we want to, may I suggest we throw
Head
that
back in, yeah.
again, because we want to keep that front and center?
So sure, I guess I've kind of forgotten the process here. I look at when are we having the conversation with the full cab about the tree? Because there's a lot of good ideas and input from our cab members, right? And I know Brenda and I are, of course, top of the heap here, right? No, we're only 2 of the 12, but
Yeah.
right? So,
Well, we should put that on the cab meeting agenda.
yeah, so the
Cab
next step,
discuss.
that should
Okay, we'll say
Discussion.
for the
Yeah,
retreat.
yeah.
Okay. Good point. Anything else?
from a recruiting, retention, marketing standpoint, I think it's been stated, we need to really consider keeping this a viable unit by keeping the numbers up. I would say that's very important. Because I think what have we experienced? A lot of people will be moving on that we didn't,
Yeah,
right? That aren't going to come out publicly and say they're moving on. They'll just all of a sudden give their notice.
yeah, and. Okay, let me see, what's our next, I'm just trying to think, anything else from OCEC? Oh,
Okay, I'm looking at our work plan. So,
good.
yeah, so that first task, the knowledge base of the current CAB members, what did we decide with that? Are we gonna do anything with it? Is anyone
I don't
conducting
think
it?
so. I think, didn't we, I thought we kind of decided that we needed to be a little careful with that one,
Yeah,
unless I'm wrong, because that's kind of profiling our recruiting process. And we want to, well, first of all, it would be a luxury if we had that many people that were interested, that we could go through a process of what you're suggesting, but I think, yeah, I don't know. Am I forgetting that meeting, or?
no, I think we kind of let that one slide.
I think so.
Well, see, I haven't been at all the OCEC meetings, so I can't help.
Well, I think we kind of de-emphasize that because first of all, we feel blessed with anyone from the community that expresses an interest in being on CAB. And I didn't feel it was a need. And I think some others didn't feel it was a need to start parsing out certain interest in our CAB because, well, you don't have what we're looking for right now. You know what I mean? And I felt that was problematic. We should welcome anyone that qualifies to be a part of this group, whoever it is. Am I wrong on that, Brenda?
No, I'm reading.
Oh.
No.
Well, you
I'm
want
reading,
quiet.
no, I'm reading the work plan. I want to make sure that we're, so we're on point on our work
Yeah.
plan, is what I'm trying to figure.
Yeah,
Yes.
I think we
Okay.
are. Oh,
Okay.
yeah. I see
Yeah.
what you're saying.
Yeah, right. Yeah, we're doing good. Okay.
Okay, so the
Yeah.
two things for next steps, now we may come up with something else. Patrice, when there's the agenda planning meeting,
Okay.
we may come up with something else, or you may, your staff to say, well, what about ABC or DEF, something? All right.
Mm, okay.
Okay, that leaves us, believe it or not, about 5 to 7, we'll give you 8 minutes this time, Casey. Excuse me, we can circle back and you've had an opportunity to sit through the OCEC meeting. The floor is yours.
Well, first of all, thank you so much for, kind of the work that you are doing serving Contra Costa County. I am a county resident and just really appreciate that there are other community members out there, kind of engaging in some of these justice questions. Some of your conversations about how do we recruit new people, how do we work together? How do we make an impact? How do we really come back as a CAB and make recommendations on the funds that will be spent to address reentry services and to make a real difference in lowering rearrest, lowering reincarceration, lowering the rates at which people are sent to state prisons. Just really great to be here and listening to your discussion. With regards to what I heard that I am very excited about, trying hard not to jump out of my seat. I knew you had done a provider survey, or I knew that the CAB had done a provider survey and some of the things that were coming out of the provider survey. The piece that caught my eye in the agenda that I'm very excited about is the in custody survey that is being done by the Program and Services Subcommittee, as well as the CalAIM Justice Initiative focus groups that are going to be occurring in custody. Without putting too fine a point on it, rather than duplicating any of that work, I'd sure love to be able to incorporate and to get access to those findings, to be able to incorporate the voices of those who are in custody into the kind of research that we are doing about needs and sentiments. In particular, there are 2 survey questions at the very end. Supportive services needed in jail, supportive services needed in the community. I'm very curious whether or not people in custody are at all attuned to or speaking about restorative solutions. So that's kind of what I'm curious about and interested in hearing, is whether or not those in custody have a sense of restorative justice, restorative solutions, restorative transformation, restorative practices, and kind of what they're talking about there. The other thing that I'm very excited to be coming into and being able to take advantage of is just listened really carefully as you're talking about your ambassador meetings and all the people that you were going to be talking to, Board of Supervisors, some other key stakeholders, and really appreciate kind of the work that goes into having those kinds of conversations. I appreciated being able to see the tool. Certainly, we can, in our key informant interviews, one, not duplicate questions if there's any overlap. And then 2, kind of means that we can use your work and your listening. I can, look forward to hearing your report outs on those and hearing kind of what some of the key themes are. Again, your focus is reentry. That is not restorative justice programming per se. Restorative justice programming isn't necessarily best done at a reentry point, but I think it is related. I think that it is related in terms of what are our justice concerns, what are our challenges, what's working. it'll help us better understand both how you can fit restorative justice programming, practices, principles into our existing community. And where there might be complications, as well as, like I was saying about what I was so excited about, this in custody survey. What are some of the sentiments about those who are engaged in our justice system? So just super excited to have been part of this meeting and listening to the work that you're doing, and hope that I can continue to bring ideas to you, and you can keep on doing the amazing work you're doing, and let me know what you think.
Well, thank you, Casey. And again, thanks for joining us.
You're
And,
welcome.
More than just a fly on the wall. How's that?
It was very good to be a fly on the wall. If you have any questions, that warrant a deeper conversation, I would ask that you take him to Patrice Guillory and just for guidance on what's the best format for me to get you information. I'm happy to, kind of more formally pick the brain of this committee about some of the tools we're working on or something like that. But want to make sure that anything more formal is appropriately agendized.
Thank you. Any other comments here prior to adjourning? Scott,
No comments. No.
Brenda,
We're good.
Patrice? Ariana, you haven't said anything. Oh, come on. Okay, then. We will adjourn then, the OCEC meeting. And our subcommittee next meeting, or pardon me, standing committee next meeting will be September 19th, 11 o'clock to hopefully 12:30, same location, 50 Douglas. Thank you. We are adjourned.
Casey,
Apologies, could you restate the date for the next meeting?
September 19th at 11 o'clock.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Okay.
Bye, everyone. Thank you.
Bye-bye.